In Another Girl's Shoes by Berta Ruck could possibly be the most amazing hidden gem I have ever found. She gets put into this first class room. What do they call that? Okay, guys. Today has been a day. Alright. My husband's in Indiana. I'm in Texas. 6 kids. And this. Yes, I have been sorting through clothes, getting rid of things that don't fit, things that are worn out, getting all the summer stuff weeded out, putting in the winter stuff, even though here it doesn't get all that cold. We maybe have like 1 or 2 days down here in South Texas that we even pull our coats out. Right now I have the coats still in the shed. My kids are wearing shorts right now. That's how it is here in South Texas. But I wanted to talk a little bit today about what could possibly be my new favorite book of all times. I'm just saying. So I tend to do prompts based off of books that I am already reading. So I was reading, or I am still reading, this book called Close to Shore. It is The Terrifying Shark Attacks of 1916. I ended up reading this book because I did a unit study on sharks with my kids in homeschool, Shark Week. You know, I had to have a shark book, so I got this one. This, I believe, would be considered a narrative nonfiction. The guy that wrote this, Michael Capuzzo, I know I said that wrong. He's very good about telling a story and talking about the time period and things that people were doing at that time, things that people believed in. This is talking about the going swimming on the beach, and back then that was not as popular as it is now, and it's talking about like the swimming suits of the time, and I was just very, very intrigued by the time period, and he does an amazing job talking about it, describing it. So I was like, oh wow, I want to hear more about that time period. So when I came up with my reading prompts after that book, which I'm still reading this one. I don't know why I finished the one that I have a prompt for based off of this book before I even finished that book, but we're not going to go there. So I decided that for that book, my prompt was going to be a book published in 1916, because that's when these shark attacks happened. Excuse me. And that's the time period he's talking about, all that stuff. So I went on, I think I Googled it first, but I found it on Goodreads. There was a long list of books that were published in 1916, and this one was the most interesting. There was a few on there that I had heard of before. Understood Betsy was one of them, which I've actually read part of. I haven't finished it. I started reading it to my kids a couple years ago, and then it was right at the end of the school year and we just didn't get it done, but it was pretty good. But when I read the description of this one, I was like, I need to read that. It sounds amazing. In Another Girl's Shoes by Berta Ruck could possibly be the most amazing hidden gem I have ever found. Honestly, I've never heard of this book. I found it on Goodreads. This is the only edition that they have. There's a small publishing company in Coppell, Texas that makes some of these like out of print classics that aren't like mainstream, super popular, you know, classics that everybody has heard of. Honestly, I don't understand why this author was not more popular. I'm just amazed by her writing. The prose in this book is just, it's amazing. I want to show you something. So, hang on just a second. Okay, I'm back. So I tend to mark in my books. I know some people don't like that. I just do. I love the idea that one day I'd like to pass my books down to my kids. I've just recently started tabbing my books. I used to just highlight in them. Now I tab them. But this book I just read, I just finished The Line Between. I think I gave it like 4 stars. It was a pretty good book. But this is like average for me. I don't know if you can see. I don't tab them typically. I use washi tape because I don't like having stuff stick out of my books here. But like, you can see these little dots, okay? That's where the washi tape is. That's where I have things marked. This is about average for me. I'm gonna have a few marks, okay? I'm gonna show you this book. Oh my goodness. It got so good here at the end that I just tabbed every page because I couldn't even, I would have had to highlight every single word at the end here that I was like, there's just no point. I'm just gonna put a tab on every page and that will just represent that I loved that part of the story. So in this book, we are following Rose Whitelands. I had to make sure it wasn't Wheatlands. I tend to get names wrong, especially when it comes to books. I don't know why. She is, it never really says why she's estranged from her family, or maybe it did, but I don't remember. I'm not sure if her parents died or she just doesn't have a relationship with them anymore, but she is living in essentially like a boarding house, and she is looking for work. So she responds to an ad and she takes a job as a governess for these for this rich family a few towns away. The book starts in London and she goes to the countryside in Wales. So she takes this job and she is on the train headed to this job. Very first chapter. That's what it's about. So she is, I would say middle class, definitely not upper class. And so she's on a, what do they call it? Like it's like coach on a plane. Let's see if I can find it here. I can't for the life of me find it. If I left all the footage of me trying to find what they call, the budget side of the train, you would get very bored and turn it off because it was a long time. I tried, did not find it. So anyway, she's supposed to be on the budget side of the train, and she ends up getting put into first class because the train is overflowed with people. Overfilled with people? Okay, so she gets put into this first class carriage, and at first she's alone, and then in comes this woman who is dressed to a T, completely fancy. I'm gonna read you her description. It's not a spoiler because it's page 3. So this is kind of what hooked me, because I just love the way that she worded this statement. And then the light from the corridor was darkened. A figure appeared in the doorway. Enter my traveling companion. I ventured a glance at her as she sat down in the corner seat opposite. She was what I immediately described to myself with some amusement as a vision. She proceeds to refer to this woman throughout the whole book as the Vision, which I found, I don't know, endearing, funny. I loved it. So one thing leads to another. I'm trying. I don't know how much to tell because I don't want to ruin things, but this is on the back of the book, so I don't feel like it's too much of a spoiler. So this woman tells her that she is a widow to a soldier, and that his people have sent her a letter and they want to meet her, but she doesn't feel like that she would fit in. She's an actor and very rich and eccentric, and she feels like this man's family wouldn't understand her, and that would be the biggest acting job that she's ever had, and that is pretending to grieve for a husband that she only knew for 2 weeks. So she tells Rose about the whole thing, and then she says, okay, tell me about yourself. So Rose talks about herself. She tells her where she's headed, that she's going to be a governess. And throughout the course of this train ride and telling each other stories, the Vision says, which her name is Vera Vane, and she's, like I said, an actress, but I'm gonna call her the Vision because that's what Rose called her, and I loved it. But anyway, the Vision says, wouldn't it be great if we just switched places? Because you would be much better suited to go and meet George's people. George is her husband's name. And Rose is like, what? You're crazy. Why would I switch places with you? That's terrible. But Vera is just convinced that that's the thing to do. So when they get to the stop of the train, she is still trying to convince Rose that this would be a great idea for them to switch places. And she grabs all of her stuff right at the end, right before the train is about to leave, shoves Rose off the train with her suitcase and all of her stuff, and says goodbye, and that's it. That's all you see. Okay, so that's the most I'm gonna like really delve into the story of this, because I just don't want to give too much of it away. It's such a good story. I could sit here and probably tell you the whole thing and just enjoy every minute of that, but it's so much better if you read it on your own. But oh my goodness, this book, It's my new favorite. I don't know how many other people will like it. It's a little bit predictable. What I really loved about it is that I'm very intrigued by people in general, humans. It doesn't matter what time frame anybody is from, we're all the same. And I loved that this was a contemporary novel at the time. So you're getting the fashion, you're getting the language, you're getting the nuances in relationships and friendships and little things that they would do. There's a scene in here where they go to a store in France, and there's like, instead of mannequins, there's like people, women that are models that are walking around in these clothes. And this is something I didn't know happened at that time. I thought it was so interesting to read about a different time period, but to see that these people, they're kind of just like us, you know, they just live their lives and things happened, and everyday life was everyday life for them. But it wasn't, I think the temptation when we look back on history is to feel like we're superior to them because we have technology and internet and air conditioning and, you know, all the things that we think we're smarter for. But I always tell people, because I'm a giant nerd, I love history, I love looking back over different time periods, and I feel like every time period, they had their own strengths, they had their own things that they were good at. And it doesn't mean that they were not as smart as us, it just means that they put their brain power into something other than what we have. And honestly, sometimes I feel like maybe they had it better. Maybe they had better ideas than us, because I don't know, sitting around scrolling on a cell phone, it might not be as good as some of the things that they did back then. But one of the things I really loved about this book is that you got to kind of get a snippet of what it was like in 1916. Berta Ruck, I want to read more of her books. The problem is that there's only one other that's still, that this same company publishes. Anything else by her, I'm gonna have to probably like find somewhere in a thrift store or an antique shop or something like that, because everything's out of print from what I can tell. I've looked, can't find anything except for this book and another one called his, I'm gonna have to look that up. So there's this one, and the other one is his official fiance, and the same publishing company will publish this. It's kind of like a print on demand is what I gather. My copy was printed September 9th, 2021, and I think I ordered it a couple of days before that. So I think they print it as it's ordered, which is awesome. I think it's great that they brought back an older book that was out of print. I wanted to do more research on this publishing company because I thought it would be cool, but I really couldn't find anything on it. I'm just happy that they have put out this book, because seriously, this is my new favorite. I was gonna say it's my new favorite classic, but I would have to say it is probably my favorite book of all times. I literally have never had so much in a book that I wanted to mark and remember, and I had thought about giving this book to one of my friends because I want her to read some more fiction. She's a very avid nonfiction reader, and so I was gonna, pass this along. I can't give her my copy. I might order her one separately so she can read it, but yeah, I'm not giving this one up. This is such a good book. The only thing that would make it better is if it was like a beautiful hardcover, awesome edition, but this is my traveler's journal, and in it I have my reading journal. And I think so I just wanted to show you, this is what I do. I used to do it a little differently, but this makes me happy. I use planner stickers, all that stuff. But the reason why I wanted to show you this is I have a couple of quotes in here that I don't think would spoil anything for you, but it would just kind of maybe give an example of some of her prose that I really enjoyed. So one of them is how he is 1 minute one thing and another minute another, like an April day or a woman. I thought that was funny. And then this one says, I suddenly felt that I had a million things to say to him, a million things about which to ask him, to ask his opinion about, and yet I didn't know what they were. I felt that I had come to the end of a pleasant friendship, that I'd wasted so much of it. Her way with words, it just won me over. Like, like I said, I mean, look at all the things I've marked. But anyway, another one. So this is after the vision comes in, and yeah, it's talking about a woman that she sees, that I'm not going to tell you who it is because I don't want to ruin anything, but this is just a sentence. This is her describing her. A sow's ear looks so much more like what it is when really strenuous efforts have been made to convert it into a silk purse. Which, if you read the rest of that paragraph, you will appreciate that statement. So, anyway, I don't know how convoluted this video will be. I am excessively tired because I have been a single parent all week to 6 kids, but I really wanted to do it. So I sat down, even in my mess, and I filmed it. But like I said, I have no idea. Hopefully when I edit, I'll be able to make sense if I didn't make sense. But I wanted to talk about this book because, like I said, it's my new favorite. I highly recommend this. I would consider this a classic romance. Yeah, I'd have to say it's a classic romance because there's a love relationship in this. One thing I appreciated is I'm pretty good at predicting how a story will go. I don't know what it is about me. I'm that way with movies. I'm that way with books. But I really don't like it when I can predict completely how a story will go. I mean, this has one of those types of storylines where once you find some things out, you kind of figure out where it's going, and it's really good. But what I loved about it is that even though I could predict where the storyline was going, there were a few like twists and things that I didn't expect that completely caught me off guard, but in a good way. It was like, oh, okay. Because I was wondering how that was going to be resolved, and I feel like she did an amazing job taking a story that could have been very predictable and very cliche and making it into something that just will take you by surprise and be like, oh, I didn't see that coming. What? So anyway, please read this book, because I don't know of anybody, I've never heard of anybody reading this book, but please read it. I want to talk about it. I want to know how you feel about it. I want to know if you loved it as much as I did, or if I'm just a crazy person. If you have, by chance, read this book, please talk with me about it. I don't want to give any spoilers, but I would love to talk to somebody about this book who's read it and knows all of the stuff. So anyway, thank you for watching. Thank you for listening to my highly, probably babbly video, because I'm tired. If you like this video, like, subscribe, and thank you for watching.